It's a best-of-7 series between WCW stars and New Japan stars to compete for the World Cup of Wrestling, and we have a new WCW World Heavyweight Champion in a very, very, very shenanigans-filled main event. I'm Charles Rhythm with a retro review of WCW Starrcade 1995. Now, I want to say right now the commentary was really on fire on this show. Schiavone, Heenan, and Dusty Rhodes, they were just fucking great. The banter between Dusty and Heenan was just fucking phenomenal, especially during the Eddie Guerrero match. That being said, though, some of this show has aged well. There are a couple matches that hold up. It's cool to see Randy Savage take on a New Japan wrestler that is still competing to this very day, showing longevity right there. But a lot of the show, including the semi-main, just fucking dragged. A lot of this show was just not well-paced. It was not well-formatted. It was like they were like, okay, we need to give the semi-main a lot of goddamn time. And they realized, oh shit, even though we have two premier workers and Lex Luger, we probably shouldn't have given it nearly 30 fucking minutes. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. By the way, the dark matches were DDP versus Dave Sullivan and the American Males, American Males, American Males. That's going to be stuck in your head, just like it's always stuck in my head because I'm a wrestling nerd like that, versus the Blue Bloods. And then the dark match at the end of the show was One Man Gang versus Kensuke Sazaki for the U.S. Championship, where they did dispute a finish, so Sazaki retained the championship eventually, but then they recognized One Man Gang as the U.S. champion, so it was a bit weird. Probably because they realized, hey, wait a second, Sazaki's full-time in New Japan. We need to get the U.S. title off of him and bring it back to our program so we can have our secondary championship that isn't the TV title that was already starting to be devalued quite a bit. So, the opening match was Jushin Thunder Liger versus Chris Benoit, World Cup match, good as expected. Really, fucking great work by both guys. Yes, it is hard for me to watch Benoit match knowing what would transpire just under 12 years later. But this was really good. It's great to see Jushin Thunder Liger at his peak. He would end up actually having a brain tumor removed sometime in '96, I believe. And it's just fucking weird to think about how long he would continue to wrestle, showing, great genetics and great recovery, being able to continue to wrestle with that. And thankfully, he recovered fully from that. But Dusty says at one point, tipsy toe. And Dusty was just fucking great during this whole thing. We get a Liger bomb for two. And then, Kevin Sullivan comes down, distracts Benoit because of the Horseman feud, because Sullivan was upset at Pillman, so he's going after all the Horsemen, despite having respect for Flair and Arn. And an awkward Hurricanrana spot, and Liger gets the victory. It was a very odd finish, a bit strange, but still, Liger got the victory. Benoit didn't look weak, and New Japan goes up 1-0. And then Eddie's promo about facing Otani. And this would actually lead to the best match on the show, in my opinion. And then we get Koji Kanemoto, who was the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion at the time, versus Alex Wright. Alex Wright, the big old German dancer and everything and stuff like that. And I can't do the dance at all because I'm so goddamn white and I'm not German like he is, obviously. Man, they were desperate to get Alex over. This was not good. This was not. And Koji was fine. And Alex was a good worker. This should have been half the time that it was. This had no business going about 12 pissy minutes. It really shouldn't have. I think Heenan at one point said to Schiavone, you know what Dusty's talking about? Well, that makes one of us, because they were just fucking great. They were calling the matches, but they were also having fun. It was a good mix, because WCW commentary at this point still fucking care because WCW is on the rise. Definitely not falling like it was by the end of 99 into 2000 and then all the way to the end of 2001. Boy, looking forward to reviewing those last few months of WCW. Still gonna fucking do it, though. Anyway, we get Jackknife cover 1, 2, 3. So, Koji Kanemoto helps New Japan go up 2-0. Then Mean Gene interviews Sonny Ono. Typical stuff. Man, they made Sonny really act like he didn't fucking know what the hell was going on, didn't they? Just made him act like a fucking stereotype. Lex Luger versus Masha, Hirochono. What did Chono do to deserve this? I really don't fucking understand. Chono's a great wrestler. Luger, when he's with the right guy, can actually do some good work. This was not that good. It was awkward. At one point, Chono had that big kick called the Mafia kick, and then they had, an argument like, oh, the Sicilian elbow and all this stuff, and commentary just calling it. And Dusty's like, why would you call it the Mafia kick? And he's just, I can't do a Dusty impression all that well, but he just his shock of like what they would call maneuvers was just so funny. And then the rack for the win. Poor Chono having to, submit to Luger. They just should have had him knocked out and then pinned. But whatever. Johnny B. Bad versus Massa Saito. Oh dear, who thought this was a good idea? I do not understand who thought this was a good idea. And nothing against Saito, and nothing against Johnny B. Bad. This is a clash of styles that did not fucking work. The Diamond Doll was there, and, you know, she had gotten away from DDP and was with Johnny B. Bad for a little bit. Heenan said she used to be, you know, a beautiful woman with all these gowns that Diamond Dallas Page bought for her. Now she looks like a bimbo cheerleader. Heenan, always being respectful of women. Actually, Heenan was just fucking great because he would just have one-liners. Even when he didn't care, like in WCW, he was always doing some great stuff. And, man, she took one of Johnny B. Bad's bad blasters and was gripping and stroking and releasing it all over the crowd. And then Diamond Doll and Sonny Ono have words. This was not good at all. Not good. Over the top rope and a DQ. Johnny B. Bad gets the victory, so now it's tied up 2-2. This was not good. I'm sorry. This was really not good at all. Like, you could see, this is the worst match on the show. And no fault against either of the guys. And then we get Shinjiro Otani versus Eddie Guerrero. The commentary is fucking gold. Like at one point where Heenan says to Dusty, "Hey, Dusty, what would you say if you were Eddie Guerrero?" He's like, "I'm saying I've lost a lot of weight, brother." And it just was so fucking good. And talking about, you know, drinks and like, no, I didn't say, I said Otani. And Dusty, I feel so bad. I feel so bad if I'm desecrating Dusty's name by doing a horrible impression, but it's hard not to do Dustyisms when you hear him on commentary, especially for a 3-hour pay-per-view. And this was good shit. This is really good stuff. I remember at the first time I actually saw this on pay-per-view, I remember thinking it was decent, but not great. I've grown to like this match over time. Otani is really good, especially, I think he was like 24 at the time, 23, 24. Eddie was at the peak of his powers and still on the rise. Really, really good stuff here. And a roll-up, 1, 2, 3. Otani getting the victory. New Japan going up 3-2. Good stuff, though. Best match on the show. Unfortunately, we got more matches to go. We then get Randy Savage versus Tenzan. Yes, Tenzan, who is still wrestling to this day. That's some fucking longevity. Battle of the Colorful Tights, by the way. Black mixed with weird, bright colors. I'd say as there's a Pride shirt behind me, but no, seriously, it was kind of cool to see it, and cool to see Tenzan before he was broken down and managing a K-pop idol guy. So anyway, the match was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I will say that much. It was certainly better than the Saito bad match. And a missed moonsault, sky elbow, 1, 2, 3, and then commentary loses it as Heenan, drops his notes and then has issues with the chair and Dusty. Dusty's laughing. Shivani is trying to keep the show together, and he just fucking can't. They had to cut away. And we got various backstage interviews, by the way. I'm not going to go into all that stuff. But Sting versus Kensuke Sazaki. Sazaki had beaten Sting for the U.S. Championship a little bit, I think a couple months before, if I recall correctly. Good pace. Sazaki really was when he wanted to be. He was a really good worker. And other times would just phone it in. I mean, I'm not knocking. I mean, you need to not go, 5-star match every single time. But Sazaki really was good more often than just coasting. And we get Scorpion for the victory. So the title wasn't on the line, but WCW wins the World Cup of Wrestling. And WCW participants celebrate. We get a trophy presentation. And it was cool. I don't think they ever did this at another Starrcade or even another pay-per-view. That being said, I like the concept. They just should have executed it better. Because then we got Luger versus Sting versus Flair. #1 contenders triangle match. Okay. Let me just say right now. I love the idea of building this. You had Sting and Luger's friendship. Luger on the Dungeon of Doom side. Sting seeing something in Luger and wanting to be his friend, but not wanting to turn dark side, at least not yet. Flair wanting to get back at Savage, especially after Luger had screwed him out of the championship. Just a couple days before on Nitro, on the Christmas edition of Nitro. It was actually a taped episode, which is smart. You don't want your talents to work on Christmas at that point. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, totally understood it. Times change. That's why on the holidays, you don't have your talents work. Just tape the shit and let him have the holidays off. Family's important. Anyway, 2 men in the ring at one time. You tag out, and then I think it was supposed to be elimination style. Here's the thing. And I get it. They built this up pretty goddamn well. They promoted it. They built it up well with some good storytelling, especially since World War III. And it seemed like they did a lot in just a few weeks. And that's great. And Sting was great at this point. Flair is Flair. So, of course, you're going to fucking love him. And Luger, when he was with the right guy, it could work. Here's the problem. This didn't need to go 30 fucking minutes. Not even fucking close. This was fucking, it was quite frankly kind of bad because they were just padding this shit out. So many of the, New Japan, New Japan WCW matches, World Cup matches, seemed like they were rushed. Now, yes, Savage had to wrestle twice because he would defend the championship against the winner. Sting and Luger had already wrestled. So I get it. Why did you have this go 30 goddamn minutes? You could have had this go 18. Then you could have added maybe a couple more minutes of some of the cup matches and add a couple more minutes of the main event, and it wouldn't have dragged. The crowd was starting to get tired at this point. And we get a ref bump. Flair stops Luger from racking Sting. Luger tumbles outside, and then he tosses Sting outside. And Sting and Luger get counted out. I mean, Sting's about to get back in. Luger pulls him back. Like, no, I'm trying to do this, and, all this stuff. Luger was like, no, if you can't win it, or if I can't win it, you can't either. And then Flair wins it, and then Sting's like looking at Luger like, what the hell, and then he walks off in disgust. And then we get Flair versus Savage for the WCW Championship, and we get Orndorff out in a neck brace because, of the attack that had happened where the Horsemen had laid out Orndorff, pile drove him. And that would actually pretty much lead to the end of his career. He'd have a brief comeback in 2000, but he would have the neck issues and the atrophy issues, and he would have to retire. These things happen, and thankfully he seems to be doing a whole lot better now. They always work well together, but here's the problem. This really was too shenanigans filled. Jimmy Hart was there with Ric Flair, and a megaphone got used. Megaphone got hit into Ric Flair's head, so of course, naturally, Ric Flair bled and bladed. My God, he was so goddamn red. It was more red than on this poster back here of Victoria, Tara, and TNA, back when it was TNA. More red than that. It was absolutely fucking astounding. He bled so much just from one megaphone shot. And probably bled again when, I mentioned this in a review. I mean, the whole thing is Ric Flair blades a whole lot. Pillman gets in, Benoit gets in, he fights them off, loaded punch from Arn Anderson, 1, 2, 3, Flair tops him, and that's really it right there. It's not that it was bad, but too shenanigans filled. It didn't make Savage look weak, it made Savage look dumb. Like, Savage should have held the championship a little bit longer, and then Flair would hold it, I believe, until he dropped it to the Giant on, I think it was like late April 1996, which makes sense. I mean, the Giant won it, and then would have a fairly unremarkable run as champion, because then they would do the NWO thing and they would forget that the Giant was champion. Yeah, so overall, pretty messy event. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm Charm Redland. I'll see you soon.